What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. It is Monday, the day after the last set of online qualifiers for Major 3. We're heading off. I'm actually, by the time this video is posted, I'll be in Toronto, so I wanted to push, get my video out for the tier list, a pre-major tier list. We've got some interesting updates to this. Let's take a look. I'll also give you my brief thoughts on the bracket at the end, so let's dive in. All right, so if you are new, you've not seen my tier list videos, this is how we do it. There's actually a tier list from the last video. At the top, you got finals bound. Those are your top two teams. Spoilers, there's not going to be any changes there. Sunday regulars to finish top 4. Those are the rest of the top 4. It's starting to be clear there is a gap between those two teams and Toronto and New York. And I would say, honestly, in FAZE and Optic, at least for now, making progress is your top 6/top 8 teams. Work to do is kind of the fringe top 8 to top 10. And missing pieces is sort of the bottom 4 teams. Teams I think just have no chance to win, are probably going to get dead last at this tournament. All right, let's start at the top. We're going to start with, we'll start with Atlanta FAZE, who coming in are your number 1 seeded team for this event. A perfect qualifier for Atlanta FAZE this stage. I mean, there's just really not much to say about them. They were just kind of in cruise control. Yeah, I mean, they had one match this week. It was against Seattle. It was 3-1. They dropped an S&D, a 6-4 Invasion S&D, which has been kind of probably one of their weaker search maps, to be honest. So maybe some stuff to clean up there because they have lost the last 2 times they have played Invasion this stage. But either way, not really much issues for FAZE, and they're going to face off against Miami in winners round 1 and go from there. And you're going to probably expect FAZE to be there or thereabouts on Sunday, surely. And I think the team that is likely going to play them in finals is going to be Optic Texas. You know, we've been talking about how Optic has had some sort of like rough series the last couple of weeks. Their schedule this stage has been kind of a bit of a snooze, and I thought they had a pretty clean one against LA Thieves. The only issue they had was in the Rio S&D, where they did go ahead. They could have actually gotten blown out, and they actually fought back in that. But my big concern for Optic right now, map pool wise, 2-2 in Rio S&D, 7-2 in Karachi, so no issue there. 5-4 in Invasion, go 500, 2-5 in High Rise, and 1-0 in 6-star. The problem is that if I'm Atlanta FAZE, I'm getting Karachi out of there, and if you're Optic, you got to make a decision. High Rise or Rio, either one, you're going to be playing against FAZE, and they've not had success on either map against them. So still some S&D map pull issues for Optic. I like where the control's at, like where the hard point's at, but we get to a mixy series of FAZE game 5 right now. I'm probably still leaning FAZE, but I think Optic's in a good spot to get at least top 2 at this event. Let's move on. We're going to talk about Toronto Ultra, who will be your third ranked in this standings, or third ranked in this tier list. And I think technically also the third ranked team in the bracket, because I think they're on the other side with Optic. Anyway, they had a pretty good week, 3-0 Boston. Not really much to say about that. Skill diff. And then the series against New York was interesting. I actually think they should have lost this series, but they did fight back 120 points on that Vista Hardpoint. Lost a Invasion S&D to New York, who have been really good on that map. Control was pretty tight, and then they kind of blew New York out in a game 4. That had to be reset at some point. There's a little bit of crybaby cheese going on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the reset. Either way, for Toronto, I think a pretty solid finish for them. The only series they lost to split was to FAZE. Other than that, like a pretty good run. That being said, I'm still not convinced about the S&D on this Toronto Ultra squad, and it could potentially become an issue in their winners 1 matchup, which we'll get to in a second, and sort of matchups against an Optic or FAZE or maybe New York again. So yes, the control 6-1. They've only dropped 1. It was against Atlanta FAZE, but I'm a little, the S&D, if they're at the event and Toronto plays good search, they're going to be in the mix to win this thing. If not, it's going to be another 3rd or 4th place for this team. Let's talk about New York. They only had 1 matchup. That was the series against Toronto that they honestly should have won. And I think looking back at sort of how this stage went, it could have gone really south after the 3 consecutive losses. They did battle back to go ahead and make winners bracket, but barely. They don't actually have a top seed for this, which is, okay, they're gonna have to live with probably, not being able to pick team A, team B, whatever. S&D's been up and down. The control's actually been really good, but they've dropped a couple of controls against good teams, and the hard point has been iffy. Have not been good at Vista. They should have won 1 today. The Karachi's been really up and down. They did lose a sub base. But Rio and 6-star have been solid, but even then, like, can you rely on a Rio? It's an Optic or FAZE? Probably not. A lot of questions about the New York map pool, and I just don't know, man. I think they're in the same boat as Toronto. They have a big weakness that I think if it is not addressed come tournament time, I think more so than Toronto, this New York team has the potential to get a bad placing. But I think realistically they're getting top 4, but not 1st or 2nd. All right, I want to talk about Thieves in Seattle. No change to making progress here. Because I still think that these are the 2 sort of teams that maybe have a chance to do some dark horse stuff this weekend. I'm actually, in my personal ranking, going to leave Thieves in front of Seattle, but I do think that Seattle, to me on paper, and we'll start with them, that I think like should be, in my eyes, have got better tools to be the 5th place team, because I think they have more swagger about their gameplay. The problem is these guys, Atlanta, are like a completely different team this year. They've been automatic in S&Ds, but the respawn goes like out the window. We'll see if they can, you know, handle this where they got like 0-4 playing his first pro event. You know, the control have been still a huge problem for Seattle, and that's going to very much limit their ability if they can't like win map 1 and map 2 or take a hard point into S&Ds in this series. So that's something to watch going to the bracket. For Seattle this week, they did lose to Thieves, so that's why I have Thieves in front of them. They also lost to Atlanta FaZe in a close matchup as well. So tough 2 losses going into this stage, but the rest of the work has been good. But that being said, like, they did also lose to Miami the week before. All right, we'll see with Seattle, man. Thieves. Okay, so this is an interesting one. They, listen, had a pretty good schedule this split, and this week did take care of Seattle and lost to Optic. You know, that series against Optic was fun, but Thieves definitely got skill diffed in that series. I think if you're a Thieves fan, you really like the S&D performance this split. They have a very good S&D map pool right now on paper. Hardpoint is pretty good in map 1, but map 4 hardpoints, ugh, been a mess there. What's the real concern for me with Thieves? The real concern is the control does not look good in the split. They have 1 victory on Karachi, 1 victory on High Rise with their own 3 on Evasion. They have 2 other losses on High Rise. And in a bunch of those game 3s, the minute they lost that, they were up 2-1 the series. They went to game 5 and they iced up in a couple, and then suddenly they did lose game 5 this split. So Thieves, to me, just like with Seattle, the problem with both the teams in this tier is online, yes, they have potential for upsets. At LAN, they're going to play their best Call of Duty of all time to have a chance, because I just don't think either of these teams have their dog or have the dog in them. So let's see. We're going to take a look at the bracket in a bit, and I'll tell you my thoughts on where Thieves might land. All right, let's move on to the next tier. So I am going to move, for the sake of the fact that they made top 8, I'm going to move Miami up in this tier. We're also going to shuffle missing pieces. I am going to leave Carolina in front of Miami, because I trust Carolina more and do Miami after they lose their winners round 1 matchup to make something out of this stage. They did go ahead and win their a big series against Minnesota. It was basically a win and in series for both teams, and Minnesota lost, and Carolina won that in 4 maps. They continue to have played great when they are together in Carolina, but I still don't think this team is very good at hardpoint. Yes, they have improved their search. The control is solid, but not great. I just think they're going to be super reliant on just extending series and winning game 5s against some good teams, and they did that with some of their past squads at LAN. It's how they're getting top 6 or top 8 placings. But they have a tough first round matchup, and then after that we'll see what happens with them. And next up we have Miami, and listen, I gotta tip the Miami squadron here, because they were looking dead last week, and they pulled up this week in a win to make it a winners bracket match against LAG, and they took care of business. They look great today, honestly. A fast 3-0 against LAG. The problem with Miami is I just don't know what to make of this team. I could throw stats at you, but they're 0-12 on map count at LAN, so they have a very tough first round draw against FaZe. I just don't see them winning that map, a map against those guys. And then we'll see what they can do in losers bracket. Can they regain on Friday and make a little bit of a run? They got to figure out how to get whatever teams get in this sort of mess of teams that are all 90, 100, 110, 120 points. Whatever teams that can get top 6 are in the driver's seat to make champ. Anyone that gets dead last is going to have a lot of work to do in Major 4. So we'll see what Miami can do now, but I'm prepared for the supreme disappointment, honestly. I'm not gonna lie with y'all. All right, this is where we get to the mess, because I just don't know how to rank any one of these teams, bro. I am going to start with Boston. Let's start with the obvious one, Boston Breach. Boston Breach, man, I'm at a loss for words with this team. Like, just they find new and interesting ways each week to just disappoint us. This week, with the Beans back, they get slammed by Toronto, and they lose a Game 5 heartbreaker to Vegas. Like, I don't know what else to say, guys. Like, they are good enough at Respawn to be in a decent spot to close these series, but these guys have no ability to win game 5s. 1 out of 11 game 5s they've won this season. Like, they win half of those, they're on 100 points, and they're in a spot to maybe qualify for champs. Now they're sitting on 50, and realistically, they got to basically get top 4 at this event to have any chance at Major 4. Otherwise, they're going to I don't have to get maximum points next split, which I just don't see. This is where it gets tough now. I just don't know what team to put in the second to last spot. I am going to say LAG because I think that the high-rise S&D gimmick has kind of died and people aren't playing them on sub-base hardpoint. That Miami series was brutal. I'm not gonna lie. And even with Flames, they just, man, they like Diamond Con had a bad series. I'm recording this Sunday night, like today. I just think they got to figure out to find a way to get some kind of hardpoint maps in the pool because 6 stars, they've tried in every series, and let me tell you, it hasn't worked out. They're still decent at search and decent at control, but this team is going down an 0-1 hole, and it's hard to get out of that when the lack of sort of talent that they have at times. When they win game 1, they're 5-2. When they lose game 1, they're 4-17. So LAG got a lot of work to do, just like with Miami. They have a bad split here. They're going to be outside looking in, and I believe their schedule for the next split is actually favorable, all things considered. Carolina, Thieves, Miami, FaZe, Boston, Legion, and Surge. They don't only play one top 4 team, so if they can figure out how to get a decent placing at this event, there's some online victories there for a team that's like won 5 online matches all season. All right, so this means I put Vegas in the like third to last spot, which like sure, I guess. They looked better this week, like won a game 5 against Boston. I don't know how much I'm weighting that though, because Boston's the worst team in the league. We got to see more from them with Ojani, and they're the kind of the biggest sort of wild card team I think coming into this, just like really them in Miami, because I just don't know really what to expect of them. Obviously they're in losers bracket. We'll take a look at the bracket in a second, see who they're going to play, but Vegas are just kind of trying to do damage limitation this split because of how many matches they lost online. If they can find a way to someone get top 8 or top 6, like, although their schedule when they get back, Toronto, Optic, and New York, that's going to be real tricky. Although they have Seattle, AG, Thieves, and Rocker after that, but 3 wins are kind of tough for that schedule, I'm not gonna lie. All right, let's finish up. We have the Minnesota Rocker. They only had one match this weekend. It was against Carolina, and they lost 3-1. This Rocker team is terrible at respawn. I don't know what else to say. 3-8 in hardpoint, 1-6 in control, 4-5 in S&D. The S&D, listen, they addressed the search issues with the squad, but they've gotten significantly worse in respawn. They look horrible at the new maps. They are combined 1-7 on the new map. Rio 6-star and Vista, by the way. I'm grouping those, although played Rio last split. But the Rio 6-star Vista combo, which is sort of the meat of a lot of map pools now, 1-7. They won 1 sub base and they won a Karachi. So I just don't think they're going to get sub base in Karachi in every series. They're going to have to eventually start winning Rio 6-star Vista. So we'll see. I mean, honestly, kind of expecting these guys to get dead last this tournament. And it's going to be real tough to play catch up to that. They're I've Optic, New York, and Toronto as 3 of the teams they play stage 4. So I don't know, man. I mean, listen, looking at the bracket, and then looking at the rest of the tier, let's take a look at the bracket. Like, I just think going into this event, we know top 4 is going to do well. We know that one of these bottom 4 teams is probably going to surprise us. I assume like LAG again, because why not? But the real mess at the bottom 6 here is going to be interesting to see who gets a lead and tries to lock in or get in a position to lock in one of the final 2 champ spots, because virtually the top 6 teams have it in the bag, and Minnesota at this point has been kind of tossing their advantage. So they're going to kind of still be on the outside, or they'll be in the inside of the conversation by the end of this, but kind of starting to really like lose a lot of ground on teams. And Boston, listen, Boston's on 50 points. They gotta figure out and find a way to get 50 points this upcoming weekend, or it's basically over. All right, so let's finish off some quick thoughts about this bracket. Bottom side of winners, Toronto, Seattle, I think could potentially be an interesting match if Seattle shows up, but probably not. Optic, Carolina, with Carolina being a really good search team and maybe getting Rio S&D map 2. Maybe they give Optic a little bit of a scare, but probably not. But then you get kind of the Optic Toronto collision course there on Saturday, so that should be interesting. And top side of the bracket, FaZe going to take care of Miami, I think. And then Thieves New York is very interesting. I think Thieves have a chance, but they are a team that is wilted at land, so we'll see what happens. But a FaZe New York match could be really interesting because New York has played FaZe generally close this season, although the last time they played, it was not very close. And then subsequently, the bottom side, like get Miami versus Vegas, banger. Boston versus Thieves, potentially. That's not a banger. That should be a Thieves win. Rocker, Seattle, banger. LAG, Carolina, banger. So, like, once again, I think Friday is going to be better than Thursday. But honestly, looking at this bracket, I think we got an Optic FaZe matchup here, probably in winners finals and in grand finals. But obviously, there could be upsets. There could be roadblock. There could be, you know, weird kind of situations that happen. Maybe New York got it going, maybe Toronto got it going, but Optic FAZE, it feels like that's a collision course. So we haven't had two teams play in back-to-back winners finals or back-to-back grand finals, I think, in a while in the CDL. So if that happens, that'd be pretty cool. All right, so that'll do it for the tier list video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. We got a lot more major 3 preview stuff coming up in this week, so make sure you check that out. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. As always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.